Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parsha of Devarim. We are now in the middle of the 9 days. The mourning for the destruction of the temple is increasing as we head up to Tisha B'Av. The Parsha of Devarim begins with El HaDvarim Asher Diber Moshe El Kol Bnei Yisrael. The Midrash Rabbah says that while the entire Torah was based on the words that Hashem commanded Moshe Rabbeinu to write, that when Moshe spoke previously, it was Hashem speaking through Moshe Rabbeinu's throat. But now the dibur, the words of Moshe Rabbeinu are his own words. He was healed from the list that he had. This week's short Vort is going to be, instead of me parroting the words of other people, this is going to be based on some of my own machshavos. One of the challenges that we find in mourning the destruction of the Bais Hamikdash and the lack of a proper yearning for the Mashiach, the Geulah Shleima, is because we don't know what we're missing. We didn't live there. We didn't see the Bais Hamikdash when there were millions of people bringing their Korbanos Pesach or their Yom Kippurim service by the Kohen Gadol. We just don't know what it's like. This week, billionaire businessman Richard Branson went up to the edge of space on what would be called not an astronaut flight, but a regular person flight, as it's just something that may become a mass business. Afterwards, he was interviewed by CNBC and he was asked to describe his experience. And he said, it's absolutely impossible to describe unless you are actually doing it. And that's the same thing for the Churban Bais. We weren't there. We don't know what we're missing. No one can describe it to us accurately. But perhaps one way to relate to it better, and I told this to one of my Magidei Shir recently, that as a single person, I'm yearning for marriage and for having a family. I feel a pain, I feel a suffering of that, even though I've never been married. True, I've experienced living with the family and having siblings and relatives, so I know something what it's about. I do have a flavor, but I can't get the full intensity. I can't fully appreciate what I'm missing out when it comes to that close relationship with the spouse and with the children. But I still yearn and I miss it and I suffer for it. That I feel is something I should relate to in the way that I yearn and we all desire for the Bais Hamikdash to come back and to be rebuilt. It's one way to reflect, give myself that direction, how I should feel. Next week will be Parsha of Devarim, and that begins with its Torah, the 7 weeks of Nechama, of comfort. But the word Veschanan itself is something that reminds me of a certain pain. Moshe Rabbeinu prayed 515 times the gematria of the word Veschanan. And Hashem said, no, you cannot go into Eretz Yisrael. I prayed every year more than 515 times. So many, many times that for what I am lacking. And so far I haven't been granted my wish. However, I think that if we as a tzibur together we're united, we will take the effort to pray and try to fully appreciate and imagine what it was like for the destruction of the temple, what we're missing out when the Geulah Shleima will come. By uniting and praying, we will be able to bring the Geulah soon. And this week we won't have to mourn and we won't have to fast. Thank you for listening. Have an easy fast if we have to. Hopefully we won't.